Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Vader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the opportunity to catch up with Chris Elliott. He is the co-founder and head of new business development at Kimelo by Cheetah Technologies. And he'll explain kind of how that whole Cheetah Technologies and that whole iteration works. But one of the really cool things about this conversation with Chris is that he's developed software and technology to support food distributors, folks who are on the soft goods side, catering to restaurants. And really, he was educating me quite a bit about that side of the business. I'd always dealt in hard goods and never really messed around in the soft goods side, the perishable products side. And so I was learning a little bit as we went here. But what was really interesting is how they have created this app to really bring restaurant owners and chefs closer to their distributors and really take out a lot of the back and forth, maybe latency in the communication between the two, getting an order. If you can think about a restaurant business and how fast paced that is and how things have to, change on the fly and products have to be there, all the time in order to prepare for a lunch rush or maybe a dinner rush or even breakfast for that matter. It's a very fast paced environment. And I think, the traditional method of, sending orders in, calling your orders in, or maybe even faxing orders in the old days or emailing or texting, that it just really slowed that process down. It made it very difficult for the efficiency of that transaction to occur. So, Chris is one of those people who was born in the distribution side and really saw the inefficiencies in his business. And he and his partners worked to really build a technology-based distributorship focused on this restaurant supply, this food service supply industry. But, really interesting conversation. I learned a lot about their business and the opportunities they're in. So I hope you all enjoy the episode as much as I enjoy the conversation. This episode is brought to you by my friends at Moblico. Today, there are more connected devices in the U.S. than there are people. The mobile experience has greatly changed your customers' and employees' behaviors and expectations, including how they communicate and exchange information at home, play, and work. Your customers expect faster service, convenience, and relevancy more than ever before. From custom mobile apps to robust mobile messaging solutions, Moblico provides the most comprehensive end-to-end mobile communication and outbound marketing solution to the wholesale distribution industry. Check out what Moblico has to offer at www.moblicosolutions.com. That's MOBLICO solutions.com. And be sure to let them know you heard about them on the Distribution Talk podcast. Well, hey, Chris, welcome to Distribution Talk. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Thank you, Jason. Excited to be here.
Nice. Well, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of share a little bit about your background, your distribution history, and then we'll kind of roll into where you are today.
Amazing. Absolutely. So I started my career working with large food manufacturers that sold into distributors that then sold to restaurants. So operating in the food service industry. And I became very familiar with the go-to-market of those manufacturers, selling through distributors, selling to restaurants. And I quickly learned that the food service distribution industry is very antiquated and relies very heavily on manual processes. And what I realized was those manual processes create real disadvantages for small family-owned distributors and their customers, the small family-owned independent restaurants. So the larger players in the industry, they invest in technology, and that gives them an unfair advantage over those mom and pop distributors that sell to mom and pop restaurants. And it really creates an uneven playing field. So I decided after about 10 years in the manufacturing industry that there has to be a better way for manufacturers to be able to sell their products to the independent restaurants through distribution. So in 2014, I quit my day job and I got a van and I built a rudimentary website. And I started doing delivery to independent restaurants from local cash and carry stores.
Okay.
And
Okay. So you're building your own little distribution company
exactly.
all right. I got you. I got you.
And really, the point of difference was the technology. In the beginning, it was pretty rudimentary, but even a basic website brought a lot of advantages to me as the distributor and to
Mm-hmm.
the independent restaurant who was ordering products from me for delivery.
Mm-hmm.
The business quickly grew. We moved from delivering from third party cash and carry stores to actually owning and operating our own warehouse and sourcing
Okay.
products directly from manufacturers.
Okay.
And we made very, very heavy investments in our technology.
Okay.
And that technology was really the main point of difference because it enabled independent restaurants to be able to source products from different manufacturers, to
Mm-hmm.
see pricing, to manage their order guides, to understand when their delivery was coming each day. And
Mm-hmm.
that technology allowed us to build a $50 million distribution business here in Northern California. That business
Yeah.
operated under the brand name of Cheetah.
Okay.
And we had thousands of restaurants using our platform every month to source the products they needed for
Okay.
their supplies.
Tell me about the warehouse here. I mean, now, again, I spend a lot of time in hard goods distribution. And so I don't spend as much time in perishable goods like you were dealing with. So, I mean, it was a refrigerated warehouse. If you wouldn't mind just describing this a little bit for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we ran a 3 temperature warehouse.
Okay. Okay.
Restaurants buy frozen, perishable, and
Mhm.
ambient goods. So we had a 90,000 square foot warehouse. About 40% of it was ambient, 30% was refrigerated, and 30% was frozen.
Interesting.
And then we
Okay.
obviously operated temperature controlled reefer trucks as well to do the last mile delivery.
Yeah.
And so we're located in the East Bay area of the San Francisco Bay Area in a town
Sure.
called Pleasanton.
Sure.
And that's where we ran all of our operations from.
Okay. Okay. And no, it's just it's interesting to me, again working in essentially ambient temperature. I mean, to use your vernacular here, that's kind of where the hard goods distribution, the world that I spent most of my life in. But to have that kind of controls, I mean, that's kind of an interesting. It's an interesting nuance to say the least. So
Yeah, perishability adds a lot of complexity to a distribution network.
yeah, yeah,
You got to keep your ice cream frozen at -6 degrees, and you got to make sure your herbs are perfectly set at 25 degrees. And then your
sure,
paper towels, you can be any temperature you want, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so we
Interesting.
built a lot of systems to ensure that, we had the right products in the right temperature zones all the way through the delivery system, from storage to picking to loading to last mile
Mhm.
delivery and offloading at the restaurant.
And I imagine your inventory turns were probably pretty rapid, at least in certain products.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always joked we never had any dead inventory in the perishable area because produce never lasts more than about 7 days.
Right. Sure.
And then frozen and ambient, you get extra days of shelf life, which helps.
Okay.
On a purchasing perspective, it's helpful to be able to buy at that truckload capacity for ambient and frozen because you get the lower price points. Yeah, but we return the products. Our a restaurant by nature, they don't have a ton of storage space, right?
Right. Right.
So they need
Absolutely.
deliveries multiple times a week. So we would turn our inventory very quickly because
Mhm.
our restaurants were ordering from us multiple times a week.
Yeah. Now, were you delivering, during the normal course of business, or would it be like, do you have night operations or anything fancy like that?
Yeah, so a typical day, we would have a cutoff at 5 p.m. for the
Mhm.
restaurants to have their orders in, and we'd have a night shift that would come in and pick the orders, and then we would have trucks leaving starting at 4 in the morning, and then kind of staggered out to around 10 in the morning, and it really depended on the restaurant themselves.
Right.
Some of them were comfortable giving a key or a code, so we could do a dark drop, which was really fantastic. Those are some of our most profitable routes.
Yes.
Other restaurants, didn't have that capacity. So you would have to organize the delivery for when the restaurateur or the restaurateur staff was in the building,
Yeah.
right? And restaurants are really interesting, right? Their staff will show up at 8 and they'll have a couple hours of prep and then they have a lunch rush. And of
Yeah.
course, they don't want their delivery in the lunch rush. They want their delivery right before the lunch rush, right?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
actually invested a lot in our routing algorithms and our
Mhm.
technology to optimize the routes of the trucks to hit the different restaurants at the optimal time. So you could get it to the operator exactly when they needed it and not in the middle
Interesting.
of their lunch rush.
And Chris, there was no off-the-shelf software that did that. Is that correct? Is that what you all
For
kind of?
independent restaurants, no. I mean, certainly
Okay.
TMSs exist, right? But like for the niche of the independent restaurateur receiving multiple deliveries a week of highly perishable products
Mm-hmm.
with kind of the restrictions the restaurateurs had on the hours that they could accept the delivery,
Yeah.
there was nothing we found out there that really solved our needs and the
Mm-hmm.
needs of the end restaurant. So it's why we took it upon ourselves to develop our own routing algorithms. We also have a driver management app so we could stay in constant communication with the driver and they could see their routes and we could adjust things as necessary. So that tech investment was really grown by necessity because
Yeah.
there was no off-the-shelf product that could solve the needs of the customer.
It sounds also pretty capital intensive. I mean, to build that kind of technology on the fly, as you were moving through this. And frankly, you're not a very old company. I mean, at that time, you were definitely still, early stages. But yeah, I mean, it had to be fairly expensive to create all this.
Yeah, we're blessed to be in the San Francisco Bay Area, around near
Hmm.
Silicon Valley,
Yes.
and that we are a venture-backed company. And we have just an incredible set of investors who really believed in our vision
Okay.
that, technology is the way to move the food service distribution industry forward, right?
Mm.
And it's just unfair for these poor SMBs to having to be run the same manual processes they were running 40 years ago,
Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
all of us in our daily lives are on our phones, we're shopping from Amazon, like we have all of our favorite
Right.
apps. And what we're running into is, the restaurateurs themselves, they're evolving. And,
Right.
as the children of the restaurant owners take over the business, they say, I run my personal life on my phone. How come I can't run my restaurant on my phone? Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so there's this overall trend of technology adoption, and the food service distribution industry just wasn't keeping pace. And so our investors really believed in our vision that technology is going to solve a lot of the challenges and quite honestly make the lives of these small business owners easier.
So when you were out looking for venture capital, for capital to build this, I mean, again, had you had experience raising money prior to this, or was this like I had to learn how to go and make a pitch and basically appeal to this group of moneyed individuals that had, hey, I've got something I really need help with, and I think I've got a good plan going.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I was blessed to have incredible partners, my other co-founders and I, and they had experience in this world.
Okay,
But it's
good,
actually I don't want to make this sound easy, but it's not as hard as you think.
interesting.
When you
Okay,
build an amazing product
yeah,
and that amazing product resonates with your customers, you see growth,
okay,
right?
yeah,
And the investors love to see that you're solving a real world problem,
okay,
right? So when I first quit my day job and got my van and did deliveries, I self funded that,
yeah,
right? But as you begin to show success, the investors then see that this is a real world problem and that our technology is solving that problem.
hmm,
And when you pitch investors, they want to see execution, right? And we, as a company, were able to execute very well. And that was
hmm.
our proof point when we were demonstrating our value to the investors as to why they wanted to join and support our vision.
Gotcha. Okay, I appreciate that. So, all right, you were running along. You're running this large entity here, Cheetah, and then eventually you decided I'm going to sell this and just work on technology. Is that basically it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we built a $50 million food service distribution business in Northern California.
Hmm.
Our key point of difference was the technology. We made
Yeah.
significant investments over those 9 years in the technology. And the beautiful kind of like core workhorse is the e-commerce app, right? It's a mobile and a web app that really simplifies order management from the distributor to the end restaurant.
Hmm.
And then we tack on our routing algorithm and our driver management app as kind of enhancers and delighters to that experience.
Hmm.
And what we realized was, there's 15,000 independent food service distributors here in
Yeah.
the United States. And we realized that like they don't have the resources to build their own technology. And when
Mm-hmm.
we looked at the landscape, we had a couple of options. We could either start leasing warehouses in new cities or acquiring distributors in other new
Right.
cities, growing physically. But our vision had always been technology solves the problems of the small mom and pop distributor.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
we made a critical decision that, like, you know what, we don't want to grow by purchasing and leasing warehouses. Let's take this amazing technology that we built over the last 9 years and let's start commercializing that, because commercializing the technology would be a much more efficient way to help all those family businesses that are distributing to SMB restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we made a critical decision with the board earlier this year that we were going to sell the physical distribution business, which we did in June, and start commercializing this amazing software we built and making it available to other distributors. So we did sell that business in June. In the last 6 months, we've been out there presenting our software to other independent
Okay.
distributors, and the response has been phenomenal. We are well above sales targets. We
Yeah.
are seeing really, really powerful demand for our tool, and we're really excited about where we're going.
You keep mentioning the term SMB restaurant. Can you explain that to us
Yeah,
for those of us who don't play in the neighborhood? So
it's a small business.
got it.
Small
Okay,
business.
okay, small
Yeah.
small business. Okay, SMB. All right, fair enough. So tell me about some of the distributors. Oh, friendly competitors. You maybe went to conferences and whatnot, and so you saw the challenges that they were working with, and probably very similar to what you had seen, but maybe on a smaller scale. What were some of those early thoughts about how you could help some of those folks?
Yeah. So, as we talk to our peers in the industry and as we talk to the restaurants using our software, we began to see this trend where the very large players in the industry, like Cisco and US Foods and PFG, they have the resources to build out their own technology. They
Yeah,
have an
yeah.
app, they have an e-commerce website. And what we saw was the restaurants were using the software of the big players. And these smaller family owned distributors, they tended to have specific niches, like they did produce or they did seafood or they were a
Mm-hmm.
bakery
Mm-hmm.
distributor, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they often would share an account with Cisco. So a restaurant would buy their mainline products from Cisco, and then
Yep.
they would buy their produce or their seafood or the bakery products from the
Right.
family owned business that
Mm-hmm.
they had a relationship with and they really liked the quality of their products from. So those restaurants would be approaching the family owned distributors and saying, listen, I can order from Cisco on an app, right? I do all of my Cisco business from their
Yeah.
website.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Why do I have to call and leave you a voicemail? Or why am I, relying on text messaging? Or why does my chef have to text message their sales rep? You should offer technology that allows me to engage with you in a really kind of simple way. It
Mm.
doesn't replace the relationship with the sales rep or the owner of that
Right.
family
Right.
distributor. Like, I want to be very clear about that. It just simplifies kind of that very manual workflow of the day-to-day ordering. Like I said, these restaurants are ordering 3-4 times a week from that distributor. It's a lot of
Right.
text messages to receive. That's a lot of orders to key into an ERP system or a WMS system. It's just a lot of
Mm-hmm.
manual work, right? And so we saw this trend of the restaurants saying, like, give me software to make this easier. So when we
Right.
talk to the family owned distributors, we actually see that they know they need our product, right?
Right.
But there's
Right.
not a lot of great options out there. Like all the B2C e-commerce sites, like they're amazing for B2C e-commerce, but they're
Right.
not built for food service distribution, right?
Right.
They're
Right.
not built for next day delivery of pallets of products. They're not built for perishability, right? They're not really built for, managing credit terms, 30-day revolving credit terms.
Mm-hmm.
And so these distributors don't have an easy way to get access to the technology tools that they need to run their business. And that's why we've been seeing such a positive demand, because our software was custom built for a
Mm-hmm.
food service distributor managing a 3-temp warehouse delivering perishable products to a restaurant with
Mm-hmm.
very specific delivery requirements. Our solution fits exactly the needs of those family distributors in the food service distribution space.
I gotcha. And correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you said there's like 15,000 of these privately held small family distributorships out there.
Correct.
to try to attack. So I mean, you've got a pretty decent playing field out here that you can go and at least talk to.
Yeah, it's a really big market. I mean, these are the classic American entrepreneurs, right? They
Right.
found a niche, they grabbed it, they built a business, right? They often built it with their own hands. They have their family members working in it, right? These are like really hardworking folks
Yeah.
providing incredible value to their restaurant customers, but they run on very thin margins,
Sure.
right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
they don't have a lot of extra money to invest in technology, and they don't necessarily have the know-how. They're probably excellent salespeople. They're probably
Yeah.
really good at ops, right? But like, they're not IT people. They're not
Right.
computer programmers, right? And so we're able to bring them this software solution that improves the efficiency and quality of their operation
Mhm.
and enhances their natural abilities of being a great people person, being a great operator, connecting, finding amazing products that, really help
Mhm.
that restaurant out. So yeah, it's a very big market, and we're finding like the time is right. We're hitting the inflection curve exactly at the time that these distributors need this software.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, Chris, you've got a great story to tell in that you were one of these entrepreneurs that literally went out and bought the van and said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. So I think that's a tremendous selling point, is that you can relate because you started, bootstrapped this business and grew it into a $50 million distributorship in a relatively short period of time. I mean, I'll be honest with you, distributorships tend to be a slow growth, slow build type of entity. But I mean, you have a very compelling story to tell here. But by applying this technology, obviously that accelerated your growth, and
Yeah.
you were able to put yourself into this position. This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSQL Distribution Software. InSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. Another thing I like about this company is they do it all in-house. They take on these applications and build them into the platform using state-of-the-art Microsoft technology. No third-party bolt-ons for them. This is important because when you need technical assistance, they are the single point of contact. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSQL Distribution Software at www.insql.com. That's INXSQL.com. Going back to the restaurant operator themselves, and I'm envisioning this small restaurant operator, like, okay, from the Hulu series, The Bear, and like, are they, really going to use an app of some sort, to reach out, and on the fly, like, I need this, and this, and this. Is this really what they're doing on a regular basis?
Yeah, it makes their job really a lot easier, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
typically a restaurateur would take their clipboard with their PARs and their checklists, and they'll walk through their refrigerator and their storeroom, and they'll mark what they need, right?
Okay.
We've been able to replicate that process in the app.
Okay.
So now they can walk around their refrigerator or their storeroom with the app and mark what they need, right? And the beauty of the technology is versus a manual process. Let's say they took that list and then they left a voicemail.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
What happens if you forget something? Or your sous chef comes in and says, oh, you know what? The butter was rancid. We actually need to add extra butter to the delivery for tomorrow.
Okay.
In the old world, that would require an extra phone call, right? Let's leave the extra voicemail or an extra text message, right? And maybe the sales rep had already inputted the first order. And like, did they get the second text message? Did they remember to add the butter to that order?
Sure.
With the app, the chef actually has a lot more control because they can walk through the storeroom, they can enter their orders, and then when they get that panicked message from the sous chef about the butter, they can quickly open the app and add butter, right? And just click it.
It's going to be on the next delivery.
Exactly. And beyond just order management, like, they can manage their payments on the app, right? They can put a credit card in, they can put their bank account information in. If they need to switch credit cards or switch bank accounts, they can easily do that. They can update their delivery preferences. They can track their truck coming throughout the day to see when it's going to deliver, Uber style, right? Seeing when that is. This adds a lot of like relief
Yes,
to that
absolutely.
chef, to that restaurant owner. And so certainly like they may be used to leaving the voicemail or texting the message, but our solution
Sure.
really solves a lot of problems for the restaurateur in addition to the distributor. So it's a holistic solution.
That's really interesting. Again, I'm envisioning the screaming, chef, like, where's the butter? And now they can actually look and say, oh, here my delivery's coming. So again, I resonate with, the relief and the, I guess, more control of product. I mean, that's really ultimately what we're getting down to. Now, one of the other things I'm envisioning though, is you were saying that you kind of replace the clipboard here with the app. Is that, are you all customized? I guess, is the interface customized then to that particular restaurant? Or to make it as fast, like a quick pick list.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a rudimentary way of saying
Yeah,
it. But
absolutely. So we have a lot of features that help the restaurateurs manage their inventory and day-to-day operations. And they can have a custom shopping list. They can
yeah,
organize it however they'd like. If they want to
yeah,
organize it alphabetically, they can do that. They want to organize it about how their storeroom is set up, left to right, they can do that. If they want to do it right to left, they can do that, right?
sure,
It's
sure,
completely customizable. They can
okay,
have different shopping lists. Let's say, Mother's Day is big for them. They can have a special Mother's Day shopping list where all their specialty items are on that. Or if
okay,
they do a lot of holiday catering, they can have the holiday catering shopping list that may vary from their standard day to day. So we provide a lot of opportunities for the restaurant to completely customize it in a way that is helpful for them, the shopping experience within the app.
And I can appreciate a lot of this customization, and I think it really makes a lot of sense, onto how that restaurateur wants to utilize that and to move throughout their procurement process. Now, is the distributor helping them set up that customization, or because I'm kind of envisioning again, smaller mom and pop, food distributors having the ability to do that, and having the tech savvy to do something like that. Is that a barrier?
When we work with the family-owned distributors, we will do an integration with their ERP system,
Right,
right?
right.
And their ERP system typically will have via invoices, the order history of any specific restaurant.
Right.
So because of the deep integrations we're able to do with the ERPs of these distribution companies, we can actually pull that information. We can pull the historical ordering. So we can kind of pre-populate on behalf of the restaurant all of the
Okay.
items they typically order, right? And that's a starting point.
Yeah.
And then if the restaurateur wants to take it on their own and do what they can, we can also give the sales agent from the distributor the ability to access the restaurant's account. And if they want to organize it because they know that restaurant from working with them for 5 or 10 years in the manner that they think is best fit, they can certainly do that. Again, I want to emphasize like the technology is not replacing the people at the distributor, right?
No,
Technology is making their jobs easier,
for sure.
removing manual processes so they can focus on kind of higher value add activities.
Absolutely, Chris. I think that's a really interesting point that it's often overlooked with technology and this type of order processing technology that people think, oh, well, you're just replacing that sales rep. And it's like, you couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, what you're really doing is allowing that sales rep to concentrate on relationship building and problem solving and being the human there.
Finding new accounts, upselling, like actually growing business as opposed to just managing the day to day.
Yeah, that you want to get to, but maybe you just don't have the time to get to because of the restriction, I've got to input this order. I've got to, yeah.
The two primary benefits that our technology brings to the distributor, the first is sales efficiency, right? Like free up that salesperson's time so they can go knock on more doors and close some more accounts, right? Instead of just inputting orders into an ERP all day. The second major benefit we bring is like it makes it really easy for the sales rep to grow their accounts. By moving the ordering process from an analog process of someone writing a list down and calling it in or texting it in to a digital process where the chef or the owner of the restaurant is actually browsing a catalog, it means that that sales rep can actually insert recommended items. We have automated recommendations if they want to use our AI tool that can certainly automate recommendations of what would be good for this restaurant. Or let's say, the sales rep has a really good meeting with the restaurant. That restaurateur is a pizza restaurant and they're interested in trying a new type of olives, right? So that meeting's at like 4 p.m. right before the dinner rush. The chef completely forgets about it by the end of the evening.
Sure.
Right? What that sales rep can do is go into the app and put the olives in the shopping list and put it in a banner ad. So when chef goes in the next morning, right, to place their order,
Right.
they're reminded, oh yeah, we talked about olives, right? And like they were really good quality and I now need to add these, right?
Nice.
And
Yeah.
by adding those items, we see basket growth of like 20% when you move from the analog to digital catalog. For the distributor, that's almost pure profit. They're already
Mhm.
driving the truck there, right? They're already dropping it off. Certainly there's a little bit of incremental picking cost or what have you, but the vast majority of that is just extra margin dollars flowing to the distributor. And for that
Absolutely.
sales rep, it's extra commission.
And yeah, fill the truck. Let's fill that
Yeah.
truck. Yeah, let's not have any empty space in the vehicle. I mean, absolutely. Something just kind of dawned on me. So I also think there's a benefit there that the sales rep can sit down with that account or that chef and be creative. Because and so this is just from my experience that so I have a client that her husband is in the food service business, and he was a former chef, became a sales rep for a distributorship. And my thought is that, wow, I mean, now you've just freed up the time so that he can actually sit down with his accounts. And because of his background, they can create and they can start talking about some different things. So there can be some synergy there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It frees up so much time for that sales agent to be creative. It also creates like a really amazing tool for the sales agent to use in live meetings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they can show the beautiful images of the products. They can show the deals, right? It's a really elegant shopping experience, right?
Right,
And so
right.
it's a great tool, even in an in-person meeting, for that distributor sales agent to present the amazing catalog that their company has to offer.
Interesting. And I think you mentioned banner ads, but I'm thinking, are there tools to push new products? So to put like a push notification, it's like, hey, all of a sudden we found a new cherry distributor or whatever it may be. But be able to push, some new products that that distributor has access to.
Absolutely. We have multiple mechanisms within the online ordering experience that helps promote new products. We have banner ads, we have carousel recommendations, we have
Yeah.
recommendations before checkout. Manufacturers can build their own custom landing pages. So if a distributor has a
Yeah.
great relationship with one of their vendors, they could actually allow that vendor to create a specific landing page in
Mm-hmm.
that e-commerce experience to promote the amazing products they have, the features and benefits. Maybe they're running a promotion, they have a new item and there's a rebate available. They can make that available within the app. So yeah, we have multiple tools that allow the distributors to present new items. We can also, there's classic void matrix technology we offer. You're a hamburger restaurant and you're buying everything but, produce. Like the app will then recommend produce,
Oh,
right?
interesting. Okay. Okay. Void maintenance. Okay. I got you. I got void
Yeah,
maintenance.
you
Okay.
can see like a typical hamburger restaurant should be ordering these 100 items. And
Sure.
from you, they're only ordering 40 of them,
Oh,
right? So it'll
interesting.
tell
Okay.
you,
I'm with you.
yeah, what could you be selling to the hamburger restaurant that you're not? And the app can actually do that work for you, right?
And I'm
Uh,
sorry,
e-
what expression did you just use? Was it void maintenance?
it's called a void matrix.
Void matrix. Okay. I know I
Yeah.
really like that, Chris. So that's why I'm kidding. It's like, okay, I'm stealing that one now. All right. That one's
Yeah.
going in the back pocket. All right. Void, because it happens in all of distribution. I mean, that is a very common conundrum or challenge. So thank you.
Right. How do you get your existing customers to buy as close to 100% of your catalog as possible, right? And
Yeah.
we do it by category. There's like 11 major categories that restaurants will order. They have produce, they have dairy, there's seafood, there's
Yeah.
meat, there's janitorial, right? So we start there. And then depending how detailed the distributor wants to present, then there can be subcategories they can focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go down to product groups, they can do that. And the technology makes it really easy for them to do that, right? We can help them build that classification, that taxonomy, and then that helps them present and sell more items to their customers.
You mentioned janitorial. Okay, so again, maybe as a food service company, you generally didn't go deep into janitorial, at least stock deep into janitorial. And I'm wondering, gosh, could you build alliances, strategic alliances with maybe a Jan San distributor or even a hard goods restaurant supplier, maybe folks who handle glassware, cutlery, linens, things like that.
Yeah.
But it seems to me like, wow, I could actually build an alliance with some of these other companies that I could run that through my app. And now the rest
Yeah.
now becomes much more valuable. That basket becomes much more full for that restaurant owner. You're just making it much, much better for a better experience for that restaurant owner.
Yeah, so we have the ability to create special orders of
Okay.
non-stocked products, right?
Okay.
So your
Okay.
distributor stocks 1,000 items, right?
Yeah.
They obviously can't stock everything. We have
Right.
the ability to connect with other suppliers, typically a large redistributor.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
can also be local vendors as well. And, the distributor can put in a lead time, say, if you'd like this product, it can't come tomorrow, but it can come in 3 days or 5
Right.
days.
Right.
Go ahead and order it. And then they can bring it in from that other additional vendor and they just add it on to the next delivery to the end restaurant. So it's like a virtual aisle is what we
Yeah.
call it, special order. And we enable the distributors to expand their catalog without actually having to hold that extra inventory.
For sure. For
It'd be a
sure.
really powerful way for them to grow their basket and also to experiment, right? Like they put
Yeah.
that out there and then maybe they see, you know what, like all of a sudden I have 25 customers ordering this glassware. Maybe I'll start stocking it.
Maybe I should be in the glassware business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I see the possibilities are endless. I've seen this in other verticals that I've worked with. And as they start down their e-commerce journey, that they realize, well, maybe I should stock that. It seems to be, and maybe I can do a little better on it. Or maybe I'm really good at drop shipping it and calling it good at that.
Yeah,
at
of
that
course.
point. So, what are some of the big barriers that you've seen, with some of the the smaller food service, distributors that you've tried to start working with? What kind of barriers are you running into?
The biggest concern we hear from our customers is how difficult will the integration with my back-end systems be? Typically, that's an ERP. Sometimes for a smaller distributor, it might be an
Yeah.
accounting software like a QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks
Right.
Desktop,
Right.
right? And so, back to the point of like the folks that start distributors are really good at selling and maintaining people relationships. They're really good at operations, right? They're
Yeah.
not necessarily IT people.
Yeah.
And if they're a family distributor, they probably don't have a professional IT person on staff.
Right.
So there tends to be a lot of anxiety around like, well, how exactly will your software work with my back-end systems, right?
Right.
And so we have invested a lot of resources and time into building out those integrations and making those integrations as painless and seamless as possible. We take on the bulk of the work. And what's really amazing about our team, because we ran a distributor, not only do we have engineers that can build the connectors, but we have in-house experts understanding how ERP should link to the e-commerce software, how the fields should map between pricing files and catalog files and customer files, right? So we bring a holistic solution to the distributor and we assist them through the entire process, right? To make it as seamless and as quick as possible so they can get up and running. And we even have a variety of shortcuts. We can do CSV file uploads and downloads to get folks started if they don't want to start with the full integration. If they want to start with the full integration, we can certainly support that. So we've invested a lot of time and resources in that area.
What are some of the big ERPs that you see in the food service distribution business? I know you mentioned the QuickBooks, and the smaller entities, but are there any that kind of tend to run the table on the market there?
Yeah, we haven't seen like a specific concentration of any dominant ERP.
Okay.
You certainly see the big ones, right? You have SAP, you have NetSuite, you have Odoo, right? Those are almost household names. And then you also see a lot of really niche players, folks maybe you hadn't heard of, like wonderful companies like ADS, right? Or SR2, NECS, Entree. And these are kind of more niche folks who have built a really good business with a great product. And so we're seeing a very wide range of these systems. It's not like, hey, there's one that's dominant. And that's who we work with.
Interesting. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I just didn't have any exposure to those different ones. And I was curious if any of the ones that I knew pretty well, had penetrated that market, but it seems to be like it's kind of the wild, wild west now. I mean, it's wide open. So if any of my software friends out there, ERP friends want to dive into that market, there's, as you said, 15,000 of them waiting to be upgraded. But one of the last things I wanted to ask you about, and this is something you and I had talked about offline, was about language barriers. I had mentioned that I had a client at one point, Dandy Foods, that they were primarily dealing with selling to Asian markets. Now, it's not really into restaurants, but my suspicion is that is another area they could move into. But what about some of these, Spanish speaking, or in this case, Chinese speaking, or Japanese speaking for that matter? Do you all mess around in the language space at all?
Yeah. Being originally based in the San Francisco Bay Area,
Right.
we have
Right.
clients that say to us, our primary customer base are Mandarin speaking
Yes.
folks working in restaurants, or our
Yes.
customer base are primarily Spanish speaking restaurant owners.
Yes.
And so, yes, we have built in translation technologies that can take in an order that is written in Mandarin characters, right? Or can take in an order written in Spanish and translate that into an ERP ready order. So yeah, this is, when you think again about like American entrepreneurs and kind of the American dream, there's a lot of restaurant owners who have emigrated from places that don't speak English, right?
That's right.
And they run
Absolutely.
their businesses in those other languages. And we have solutions that allow our technology to be easily used by them so they can enjoy all the benefits in their native language.
And I think especially in the restaurant business, I think that is, if I were to point to one that you have multiple languages, being spoken and native languages, I think the restaurant business has got to be, way up there.
Absolutely.
I would think that is probably at least the number one example I can come up with. So
100%.
So Chris, you moved over to this. What's the name of your new entity? I don't think we even talked about that.
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks for bringing it up. So when we ran the distribution business, we were known as Cheetah.
Right.
With the pivot, we have rebranded the company Kimelo. So the software offering is Kimelo by Cheetah Technologies.
Okay.
So if folks are interested in the software, they can go to kimelo.com or they can email me at chris@kimelo.com, and we'd love to share our tech with them.
We'll have that in the show notes, but if you wouldn't mind, could you spell the Kimelo for us?
Yeah. Kimelo.
It was a little bit of a different spelling, so I wanted to get that out there in the airwaves. But Chris, this has been really fantastic. It's been really enjoyable. I don't spend an awful lot of time, in the food service side, so it's been really fascinating, kind of learning about some of the different nuances and some of the things, and I can truly see the vision that you're putting together here. This is a really terrific. Hey, thanks a lot for the time, man. I really appreciate you coming on and, sharing your story and sharing some of these challenges. And man, I wish you all the best of success on this one.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jason, for having me. It's been a really great conversation.
All right. You take care, my friend.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.